You're listening to Little Green Cheese, episode 27. Well, welcome back. I'm Gavin Weber, and this podcast is where you can learn about cheese making at home. Well, a bit quiet on the cheese front this week. I cracked open a Colby, and I made this Colby back in February, and it was absolutely delicious. I've got some photos over on the Greening of Gavin where I cracked it open, and I tell you what, we had it on a cheese platter. I had two other store-bought cheeses along with my cheese, the Colby, and I also found at the back of the cheese fridge some Cotswold, so I popped that on the cheese platter, and the people that ate it, there was my wife Kim and my friend David, and we all liked my cheeses a lot better than what the store-bought ones. So it just goes to show that home cheese making cheeses are absolutely delicious. So he couldn't pick the store-bought ones until I actually told him. So yeah, there you go. I thought that was pretty impressive. Well, this week we're going to be talking about kosher cheese, and that's a cheese made to a certain methodology. And to help us out, we've got a guest today, and it's a Dovid Wheeler from Israel. So he is the author of the website called kosherkurds.com. So over to the interview. So you first sent through the recipe for, I don't want to butcher the name, Tzafatit. Is that how you say it?
Close. It's Tzfat, like the city called Tzfat.
Right.
Tzafatit.
Tzafatit.
Correct. I sent that over to you. I thought you'd really enjoy it. I don't know if you made it yet, but wonderful cheese.
Yeah. So some of my readers or listeners have made it. I haven't made it yet, but it's on the to-do list, along with a Canadian cheese that my Canadian friend is Ian. Big call out to Ian out there. He made this one called Little Squirrel. It's a mold-ripened small cheese, so a bit like Camembert, but not as runny in the middle. So
okay,
a little bit harder. So I'm going to give your cheese and his cheese a go. So I can't really stand up too long at the moment because of the knee operation.
The knee operation,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, so standing at the curds and stirring them and all that sort of good stuff, I really can't do that at the moment. So give it another week or two and I'll be back into it, so that'll be good.
Wonderful, wonderful. Only wishing you a wonderful, healthy success on the healing of that knee.
Thanks very much, mate. Appreciate it. So introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your cheese making so far.
Okay, well, my name's Dovid Wheeler. I grew up in New York. I now live in Israel. I live in the Golan Heights with my wife and son. And I run a website that's dedicated to making kosher cheese. The name of the site actually is called kosherkurds.com. And I supply hard-to-find kosher cheese ingredients to Jews that are interested in making cheese and making kosher cheese, as well as yogurt and yogurt starters. And then I'm running workshops, very much like you, running workshops throughout the country, throughout Israel, teaching people about the cheese-making process, letting them know it's really quite simple, but also enlightening them, teaching them about the different kashrut, the different kosher elements in the home cheese-making process. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm having a wonderful time. I think we spoke via Skype a bit ago about I was just in a city called Efrat, and we were in the middle of a cheese-making workshop making mozzarella, and we heard a siren go off.
Yeah.
And we all had to go down to the basement, to the bomb shelter while doing that. It still came out wonderful, though.
So it sounds like a lovely cheese. So besides mozzarella and I'll try it again. Tzafatit. What other cheeses do you make, David?
I make the ricotta, the whole milk ricotta, farmhouse cheddar. It's regular cheddar, Monterey Jack. One of my favorite, it's a Gavin Weber exclusive called halloumi.
Oh,
It's true to source. It is true to source. We're next to Cyprus here, and this you've nailed it. It's wonderful. An Alpine goat cheese called Zygerkas, and another my favorite, carefully. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly.
I think it's pronounced kafili.
Okay, Kafili,
Yeah.
Feta, Colby, a French, the fresh chev, Bondine, Bandon, Neufchâtel, Lebanais, lemon cheese. That's where I'm at right now.
I'll tell you, that is really impressive. That is very great. That is really good for a home cheesemaker, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Hey, you're on
definitely
the
a home cheese maker.
well, you're on the same scale as me. It's probably about as many cheeses I've made, but they're different types. Obviously, there's some the same, especially the halloumi, which I don't know. I'll tell you what, that was cobbled together from about 3 recipe books and 2 YouTube videos to get it spot on. I wanted to make sure that it was authentic because I had to look through YouTube, and there were so many people that were making, well, so-called halloumi, right? And the comments after them, that's not halloumi, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. So I didn't want to get the a torrent of negative comments from YouTube listeners, YouTube watchers. Right. So I thought, I'm going to make this as authentic as I possibly can. And, yeah, I think I pulled it off. And as you said, if it's authentic because you're so close to Cyprus, you can get the real stuff, then, yeah, that's really good.
Well, and the other thing is that cheese is one of the most expensive cheeses on the market here.
That's incredible.
It's about 280 shekels a kilo, which breaks down to about $75, 75 US
God,
a kilo.
That's incredible.
Very expensive. So to be able to have your recipe, to be able to make it at home for my family, for my friends, my son loves it.
Yeah.
You know, one of his favorites. So I thank you.
No problems at all.
And I'm happy about it.
Thanks, David. I appreciate it. So where do you make your cheese? Is it just in your home kitchen?
Right in my kitchen. That's it. I have a little tiny spot where I've got a little electric burner going, and that's where I start everything. Because the gas side is usually pretty dirty. And so that's where I follow your technique of using a pot on top of a pot.
Yep.
Much easier to control, especially when dealing with an electric burner, because you turn it off, but it's still hot. So with a gas burner, you turn that gas off, you've cut the heat.
Yeah.
So I find that worked really, really well. But yeah, right in my kitchen.
Oh, fabulous.
Works for me.
Yeah. So, what are some of your your best successes? And then we'll talk a little bit about some of your more challenging cheeses.
Okay. I would have to say my best success was the Colby. This was a cheese that was my favorite as a child. I grew up with this cheese. And to be able to make it the first time, it came out wonderfully. I was ecstatic because it brought back so many memories of what it tasted like. And I don't use any coloring in my cheese, so it was white. I don't use annatto for health reasons. There are some concerns with that, so I don't use any food coloring whatsoever in any of my cheeses. But that was a great success. It's not found in Israel, so when I shared it with my neighbors and my family, they were very, very pleased with it as well. Another one is the kefili. Fell in love with it the first time I made it. 14 days out, you can't beat it.
It's an amazing. Pleasure to. It's a great cheese, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of my wife's favorites. So that's every 2 weeks we're making that one every 2 weeks. And then, of course, my favorite to make is the mozzarella. What can you say? It's mozzarella.
Yeah.
It's fun for the kids. It's fun to watch. It's fun to do. It's great to eat. Great to dress it up. So those are probably my successes in making the cheese right now. Hopefully I'll have many more to add to that list.
Yeah, for sure.
As I continue.
So what are some of your challenges then that haven't gone so well?
The biggest challenge I came across this last year during the holiday of Passover was the cows had been fed a new feed. Normally here they're fed corn. Normally here they're fed wheat, and then during Passover they switch it out to corn. And when they did that, I noticed I could not make mozzarella. I could not. It was not working, and I was talking to the dairy, the person that works over in the dairy over there, and it's the largest dairy in the country, and it wasn't working. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know, maybe it was the rennet, so I bought a new rennet and tried that, and finally I just realized it had to have been that the corn feed in the system of the cows, and plus whatever else they're putting in there, the hormones or whatever, it didn't allow. I mean, I made beautiful rubber balls. I could not get a stretch.
Yeah.
I could not get. I thought maybe I was overheating it. No. So that was the biggest challenge I've had this year. But the standard challenge I've come across, maybe you can help me with it.
Sure.
Is because you're also in a very hot climate during part of the year.
Yeah.
Is the introduction of new bacteria coming into the cheese when it's drying. I find that the cheese either dries very fast, within maybe 2 days, but it's also cracked. And at that moment, I'm sure something happened, because after I've aged it, whether it be 3 months, whether it be 6 months, I cut into it and I've got gas holes, or the taste or the smell is just something happened.
Yeah.
And I don't. This, number one, it's very frustrating. You've worked that hard. You made maybe a couple kilos of cheese. That you want to give to friends, and you taste yours. You're not going to give your friends that that cheese.
Yeah.
So if you've got some ideas on that, I would love to hear them.
Happy to share. Now, when it gets over about 30 degrees Celsius here, I simply stop making cheese. And this is because the first couple of years I did this, I had the same issues as you did, that the room temperature was probably over 21 degrees. Once it starts getting above that, the air dries too quickly. Or if it's really humid, it stays too moist too long, and then bacteria infect it. I got around that by using a brine solution and just washing the cheese, and then that dries it a little bit faster too. So using a brine solution every day when you turn it, that helps, especially with kefili. That really helps a lot, because that's such a salty cheese that has a tendency to crack when it's drying. So
that's where I'm seeing the big one now.
Yeah, because it's so salty already. It's already, all the moisture's getting sucked out of the cheese as it dries, as it air dries before you put it into the cheese cave. So just with a clean cloth, I use cheesecloth, the fluffy stuff, and just soak that in brine, and then just wipe it all over the cheese. So it keeps it moist. And then just when you can touch it and don't get moisture on your fingertips. It doesn't have to be completely dry. So it can be a little bit moist before you put it into the cheese cave, or you vac pack it, or wax it. Either way. So usually with the kefili, I just put it straight into the cheese cave. I don't wax it. I don't do anything to it. And then every day I then give it a wipe with brine as well, a brine solution, as I turn it. So for that first week, and then the second week, I only turn it once or twice, but still it will develop a little bit of mold, because it really does, that type of cheese anyway, attracts mold for whatever reason. So just wiping it off with brine, that helps it out. And like I said, I just don't, from probably December through to February, I just stop. I just cannot keep the milk cold enough when it's ripening. Because if the temperature goes up too high, it'll over-acidify, and then you get those yucky tastes in the fully ripened cheese. Yeah.
Yeah, because right now it's about 37 outside, and I don't use the air conditioner too much. But probably those points you mentioned are what's happening. And it is a frustration that hopefully now I'll be able to overcome a bit. So that's the challenges. Outside of that, it's pretty straight, simple. To get a nice product, from the pan into the mouth. following the instructions.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Instructions are wonderful things. What surprises me with some newbie cheesemakers, and I get a lot of questions, that they then, you can tell what they've done straight away because they've deviated from the instructions, right? I know sometimes I say that cheese making is more of an art than a science. The science really is there for a reason. That's why they have the recipe and why your timings of your ripening has to be specific and the temperatures have to be specific because they affect the taste of the cheese. So, yeah.
Right.
So you follow the recipes. It's quite easy. So,
real quick, I think you've been over to my site. Someone from over in Australia was over there, so I think it's been the last few weeks since we've been talking, so I think it might have been you. And my wife, she came up with something wonderful, and I was trying to make this mozzarella. It didn't work. I threw it in a press. I threw some basil on it, and I wrote about it, calling it the mozzarella that didn't make it. And the next day after the press and the basil leaves were all in there, it was a very nice cheese.
Oh, nice.
It wasn't mozzarella.
Yeah. It was something.
But it was a nice cheese. So she just told me, just don't give up. You're going to have a cheese. It might not be what you're looking for, but you're going to have an edible product. And I think that's true. All the time we may not be getting what we're shooting for, but, if we taste it, it's like, that's something, and write your notes down. And
that's right.
If it's good.
Then you can make it again. If it's good, then you can make it again. That's the good thing.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a quick question about cultures.
Sure.
We both use a Sacco culture. And the cultures I get, when I first started to make cheese, I was getting ingredients from the States. At the time, there wasn't that I could find someone in Israel that was sourcing to the home cheesemaker.
Yeah.
And I finally did find someone about a year ago and was buying some cultures from her. She has now closed her site. She closed her business. So I came up and I said, I'm going to take over and I need to start finding this stuff. And I found Sacco cultures. My cultures I get are for 1,000 liters. The cultures you're getting are probably for 100.
I think it is for 100. Yeah, it's a lot smaller packet. Yeah.
Either way, how much culture are you using? You're making 8 liters of milk.
Yep.
Are you using 1/8, a quarter, 1/32? How much of the culture itself are you using?
Yeah, so I'm using, I use these really old school measuring spoons. They come in smidgen, pinches, dashes, tabs. You've probably seen them, right? So
I got them.
Oh, right. So I used a heaped smidgen, which I think is about 1/32.
32nd.
Yeah,
okay.
So a little bit more than that. So at a pinch, it'd probably, it'd be 1/32. Yeah, it has to be. So you only need such a minute amount of that Sacco culture because it is so strong. So it's not like the, you look at the stuff out of cheesemaking.com or Ricky Carroll's mob over there in New England in the US. They have sachets of a quarter teaspoon. I think they got a lot of lactose added to it to bulk it up because they're adding like a quarter of a teaspoon. And if you did that with our cultures, then it would just overpower it, over-acidify it. It'd just wreck it. So,
yeah, because I noticed that I had some of those, from 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Once again, regarding the kashrut issues of those, they're a bit shaky for me. But I opened one up and I measured it, and it was almost 2 teaspoons are in that little sacket.
Yeah.
And so I spoke to their technician about it, and I said, if I was to put, should I measure it laterally? 2 teaspoons of this equals 2 teaspoons of this. He clearly said, don't do it.
Yeah.
So I've been playing with about 1/8 of a teaspoon, but I was thinking that might have been too much also. So I appreciate you pointing me in a direction of about 1/32.
Yeah, so 1/32 to about a 16th. So, roughly in between that, I wouldn't go over a 16th because I think that'd be a bit too much. And it really, you're right, it does depend on where you source your culture from because the US ones, they ask for quarter of a teaspoon, right, in all the books that I've seen from the US.
Yeah.
But then you look at books from... Well, there's only a couple from Australia, and they recommend about 1/16 if you're using Sacco cultures. And that's about all we can source here, really. There's a Choose It, I think, is another one.
Choose It from Danco, very good product.
Yeah, it's a lovely, but you only use a little bit of that as well. So they're about the two different types of cultures. So they're all sourced from, I think it's from Italy. So is where they make the bulk of it. So.
Right. Now, what's nice to know, once again, I promote the kosher element, and there's a large population in Australia that does keep kosher, is both the Sacco unit that you carry. If you look in the bottom, or if you have Choose It, you'll see a little circle. It's with a U and then a D next to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means that product is kosher.
Oh, okay.
It is a kosher culture automatically, which is wonderful. So if you've got listeners or you've got people in Australia that are Jewish and they want to make cheese and they want to keep kosher, your company that you either represent, I know you sell the stuff right off your site, you can let your people know that the product is a kosher product.
Oh, okay. So you with a D. I didn't realize that.
Now, there is one level up, and they would need to come to me. Yeah. And that's if they want to keep what's called Chalav Yisrael. It's a different type of kashrut. And right now, I'm the only person on the internet that's carrying, for the home cheesemaker, that opportunity both for cheese and as well as for yogurt. So there's only three types of cultures I'm carrying that work that way. But for the regular Jew that lives in Australia and they're listening to you, they can you can assure them that they're getting a quality kosher product that's got a reliable, it's called a Hechsher, reliable seal of approval on it.
Okay, cool.
So there's other issues regarding rennet and things like that, but regarding their culture, you're good to go on that.
All right, fantastic. Thanks for that. So your site again is koshercurds.com. So if people want to pick up that next level above kosher, then they can get it from there, yeah?
Right. Then the other thing I real quickly wanted to touch base is I am coming out with a book called Kosher Curds, Making Kosher Cheese at Home, where I will cover all of the aspects of the milk and the whole kosher industry of milk, the cultures that are available, and now I can add, little green cheese in my reference section that's carrying kosher cultures for the Australian market. Regarding health issues, wonderful book, about 90-something pages. It'll be packed with a lot of information. So I'm excited to be able to bring that out to, hopefully you've got some Jewish listeners out there.
Oh, I did. So and there's probably some from the US as well. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So is that going to be in Hebrew and English?
I'm not sure. I want to get it out there in the Hebrew version. English definitely, because that's right now where the majority of, I think, internet readers are. Yeah. I'm going to try and get it as an ebook first. That's my plan, and then switch it over if I can find a publisher that is willing to pick it up and sees. Obviously, they're going to want to see a profit in it.
yeah,
then
they do.
Try and go to a much larger mass production on that.
Fantastic. Great. So, mate, when you've got that out and released, let me know, and I'll pop a note up on the Little Green Cheese website, or mention it in the next podcast episode, or what have you. So, let us know when the publication date is. Yeah.
Yep, will do.
All right, fabulous.
Send it over to you.
So, you make all these cheeses. What's your favourite? Your very favourite cheese to make?
My favorite cheese to make is Colby.
Yeah, really? Yeah. I crack.
No. Slika. Sorry, made a mistake. Carefully.
Kafili.
Colby's my favorite. Yeah, that's my favorite cheese to make. Once again, it's, all the hard cheeses are basically the same amount of time for the most part. About 5 hours, you're going to be in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But 14 days later, you've got a product that you can eat. You go into a Colby, a cheddar, any of the others. Okay, they taste okay at 3 months. 6 months is really when you get something starting to taste good. But then, once again, on the kashrut level, if you want to eat meat after that, you have to wait 6 hours.
Yeah.
Carefully, it's within a period of time. It's 14 days to 1 month. You've got a beautiful tasting product. And because it's under 6 months, you only have to wait 1 hour. So you can eat your steak an hour later. I don't eat steak, but I mean, someone who does, they can. So 14 days, it's fun to make. It's really fun to make.
It is a good cheese, really simple. And I was so glad when I found it. I can't remember where I found the recipe. It was in one of those books. But I have modified the recipe over time because I find that some of those cheese making books, they miss steps, or they don't proofread, or I don't know what they do, because I've had to correct so many different recipes in those books, and then when I pop them up on the website, they're basically my own because they're different, right?
Right.
Yeah, so, differences in how much calcium chloride you add to the milk. Really, it's the same.
Right.
If you're using 8 litres of milk, you're adding between 2.5 to 3 mils of calcium chloride, per 8 litres. It depends on the volume, not the type of cheese, right? So,
but also it depends on the milk. I noticed milk from Australia is much richer than the milk in Israel.
Oh, okay.
That's according to what I'm looking at. Once again, I'm looking at YouTube videos. I'm looking at industry, promotional type videos that have come out of the country. And your milk definitely has a yellower color, it seems like, where ours is white. So either in the homogenization process or something that's happening over there, they're still retaining true to form, it seems like, on the milk. So you wouldn't use so much calcium chloride if you're buying a store-bought homogenized milk probably there.
Well, no, we do, because I've found that if you don't add calcium chloride to the normal store-bought milk, which is pasteurized and homogenized, the curd hardly sets at all. So when you add the calcium chloride, you get a really firm curd set. So, but I've been to buy just pasteurized milk, so it's non-homogenized, right?
Very nice.
Which might be like cream line milk. I don't know what they call it there.
Nothing. We don't have it.
But you have, you have the layer of cream, right? You can see it on the top, which you have to mix up, right? So obviously all the fat's in there. Nothing's been removed, which is really good. It's about, I think it's about $5 for 2 litres, so it's not cheap.
No.
So, but it makes the best cheese. So, and that's what you're looking for, right? The best product to make the best cheese you possibly can at home. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I think everybody's most home cheesemakers are a bit of a perfectionist when it comes down to that. They want a really tasty cheese. Because otherwise, just go buy it at the store,
Well, right. Well, here the cheese, Israel, it's a dairy country, but, you make even your worst of the worst of the home cheese that I could come up with, you can't touch a candle to what's happening in the store.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Just it's not tasty. My wife, she can't do it. She can't eat the cheese there. So even if I make a really terrible something, it's a better something than what she could buy at the store.
Yeah, fantastic. So to wrap up the interview, we've been going for about 27 minutes, which is fabulous. What are your final words of encouragement for new cheesemakers?
Okay, I would have to say that it's probably one of the most rewarding hobbies that they will ever find. It's inexpensive. But the key point I would have to say is to have fun. To coin a phrase of keep calm.
Yeah.
and no matter what you make, it is going to be edible. Just, those 3 things. Have fun, keep calm, and know that whatever you're going to make, it's going to be edible. And, just keep learning, keep listening, keep learning. That's what I would have to say to those wannabe curd nerds.
Yeah, I love that saying.
Especially the kosher curd nerds.
Fantastic. Well, mate, it's been lovely talking to you. I know it's stinking hot over there, and it's freezing cold here. Oh, God. I can't believe. Well, the middle of winter. So this morning, this morning when I woke up, it was 2 degrees Celsius. So nice and cool. Nice cheese making weather.
Nice cheese making weather. Stay warm.
Yeah. We are.
And please, and have a quick heal on your leg and your entire body.
Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, I've got about 3 weeks to go. So before my doctor said, about 3 weeks to go before I won't even know it's happened. So it's going well.
Okay, good.
Well, it's been lovely
So,
talking to you, David. Really
okay.
appreciate you coming on and talking to me via Skype. And yeah,
Wonderful. Wonderful. I want to thank you, Gavin, for taking the opportunity.
no problems at all. Thanks, mate. See you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, I think you'll agree that that was a very informative interview. David was a lovely guy, managed to get through the interview with no problems whatsoever, and I learnt so much about different cheese-making methodologies, and that, obviously, the halloumi recipe that I created was authentic. And I've noticed that on YouTube, where the video is posted, that I'm having nothing but praise and saying that it's a dinky dye. Dinky dye, I don't think you can say that about Cyprus, but it's a true to form Cypriot cheese. So if you want to make some authentic halloumi, then pop over to my YouTube channel. I'll pop the link in the show notes. Now, just one last thing before I go. I got a voice message, so I'd just like to play that for you now.
Mr. Gavin, thank you for your nice site and for your tutorial. Thank you very much. I hope you will keep it on going. Thanks again.
Well, that voice message was from Sammy. I'm not sure where Sammy's from, but thanks very much. I really appreciate the feedback that my cheese-making podcast and the cheese-making blog, Little Green Cheese, is having an impact out there. I can't find many other resources, especially audio ones like this one, for the home cheesemaker out there on iTunes or Stitcher Radio or anything like that. So I think this is quite unique. But anyway, thank you very much, and thanks everybody for listening. For upcoming workshop dates and any recipes that I've mentioned, they can all be found on littlegreencheese.com, as well as my ebook, Keep Calm and Make Cheese, The Beginner's Guide to Cheese Making at Home. That's available in all ebook formats and at all good ebook retailers. You can also find my cheese-making video tutorials within the ebook or on my YouTube channel. I'll pop that into the show notes. You look for the user Greening of Gavin. Thanks for listening, Curd Nerds, and stay tuned for the next episode of the Little Green Cheese podcast. During this podcast, you heard royalty-free music by Kevin MacLeod. I played Malt Shop Bop and Call to the Dairy Cows.